This is the second part of our fluid mark making creative practice, and this one features teabag paper. This was a new surface for me. It had been recommended by another collage artist and friend of mine, and I made a lot of assumptions about how this paper would behave with fluid media. And so this practice really became a reminder for me to check my assumptions, to stay with the process, and to stay curious. And I started with my white crayon, as I like to do, really to see if this paper will do or resist. And then I quickly moved on to coffee. I expected this sponge brush loaded with coffee and water to run and bleed and be fluid like it would on other papers. Instead, the coffee and the water just disappeared. The water soaked through to the other side, so the under papers are wet and the tea bag paper is barely wet. And the liquid coffee became almost dry media at that point. So I decided to try some different brushes, more water, less water, acrylic paint with water, because I was still trying to get a wash on this paper rather than listening to the materials. All right. You can see the paper underneath of it. So that means when I use it on collage, I will be seeing whatever I have put underneath. In here, we're going to need a lot more of this. Ooh. I realized here that I needed to use a lot more paint and less water. I decided to let this first sheet dry and start on the second sheet. And for some reason, I decided to start with watercolor and spraying the paper first. As you can see, it just soaks up the water and the paint, and they both instantly dry. I'm still trying to make this paper act like other papers. Oh, this is kind of interesting. It doesn't blend, it doesn't spread like uncontrollably. It's still fluid. This is kind of cool. So I decide to try Conte crayons, which can be both fluid and dry on other surfaces. On this paper, even if the paper is wet, it still acts like a dry media. So at some point, I give up on the water and begin using slow dry extender medium added to the acrylic paints and my palette knife. And this is where I begin to learn how layering can work on this paper. The acrylic paints over each other are very translucent and you can see the marks beneath. And I really start experimenting here with paint thickness, mediums, dry media, and utensils, including my plastic fork. I also just put the paint straight onto the paper, right out of the bottle, just to see what happens. Well, we're just going to try this. Let's just see what happens here. I decided to try some asemic writing using my medicine vials on the paper, and this is when the marks bleed and feather out. I stopped to evaluate what the surface is doing with these different media, and then I decided to go back to my first drawing. And I decided to go back into this one because this paper is really good at doing layers. I've never used this paper before. It is very different. As long as stuff isn't too watery, you can put another transparent layer over it, especially with this metallic paint, because it's already very translucent and transparent. So I've gone back into this one to add some layers and see what that looks like. So just using my palette knife, scraping it across stuff. So I'm going to go into it with another color, and it's making some of the lighter colors pop up. I am just loving this. Let's see what happens if I do it there. So it's just acrylic paint with a little slow dry extender in it. And we're going to see if we can do it this way. Like so. I do like what's happening. Oh, it's making that pink stand out. Yep. These are the finished mark making experiments on teabag paper. I can't wait to rip these up and use them in some collages. And I really wonder what this paper will do with my jelly plate. So stay tuned on that one. I might also try staining the paper with coffee and hibiscus tea and just see what happens.